Welcome back to another one of my Disney pin collection videos. Today I wanted to share my Emperor's New Groove pins. Emperor's New Groove is definitely one of my all-time favorite Disney movies, even though it's definitely considered to be one of the more underrated or kind of forgotten about ones. The movie doesn't really have much of any type of presence in the parks. I think we all want pull the lever, Kronk. Wrong lever! Roller coaster there. That would be amazing. Kronk could have some type of little restaurant or eatery. Basically, there's so much gold in this movie. But because Emperor's New Groove, there's not a whole bunch of merch and items related to it, the pins that they do come out related to the movie I think are really cool. And these pins in this collection are definitely probably among the most special pins that I own. So without further ado, let's get started. This first pin here was part of the 100 Years of Dreams series. For this series, they released 100 pins to commemorate the 100th birthday of Walt Disney. And so at this point, Emperor's New Groove was still a pretty new movie, only came out 1 year prior. And on this pin, you have Kuzco in his human form, in his llama form, and then Pacha. And this was pin number 28 of 100 in that series. This Kuzco pin is also from an old Disney Store series, part of the Magical Musical Moments. This one has Kuzco with a Walk the Llama Llama written above with musical notes. And Kuzco is in the middle of transforming from a human to a llama. And there were a bunch of pins in this Musical Moments series. This Kuzco pin was number 7. And then all these pins had a really cool back stamp with music notes. And they even have the Mickey heads forming them. So those 2 previous pins are actually my only old Emperor's New Groove pins. Everything else I have is a much more recent release. The old Emperor's New Groove pins are really difficult to find and pretty expensive, but there are quite a few cool ones, so I gotta stay on the hunt for those. But anyways, this pin is part of the Timeless Tales collection. This was released last year, and I remember I actually bought this myself off the Shop Disney Parks app, and I was pretty excited about that because they don't often have LE pins available for purchase there. But this was a really cool series because they look like a book. This one reads The Emperor's New Groove on the top. You have all the nice intricate gold detail around here. And then this is actually a double hinge, so you can open it up. And then on the inside, you see Yzma and Kronk. So Kronk's there in his classic pose and outfit. The background fill is a little weak up there, and the quality of this series was definitely not that great. And then you have a gorgeous Yzma here. She's probably planning something dastardly. I also have an up pin from the same set that looks like this, and I like to display them on my corkboard spread like this, since if you just have it like that, then you can't see the cool artwork that's on the inside. This pin is a limited edition of 3,000. This is another pin that was released last year, and I love this one so much. It's from the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival from 2016. And it has Kronk with his spinach puffs. His arm even moves up and down. And the spinach puffs on here are actually a 3D, so they're the little rubberized element. Yzma's collar and little hat, cap thing, I don't know, what would you call that, is filled with some nice glitter. And then I love this detail, you have the llama cactus in the background. But I just think it was such a clever idea to take the little bit of foodness from the movie and turn it into a food and wine pin. This one as well is a limited edition of 3,000. This pin here is actually a pretty new release from the Love is an Adventure pin event that was just held at Epcot. This was one of the pins that I was most excited from that event, and it features Kuzco and Pacha when they have to do the trust walk up, and has a really awesome slider element where they actually zigzag up on the pillars. This is one of those pins where it's super thick and detailed. You can see just how they zigzag up on the back. This one is a limited edition of only 750. And this pin was called Love is Support, and you can see it has the Love is an Adventure back stamp on it. This is my newest Emperor's New Groove pin that was just released at Walt Disney World the other month, and it's part of their quarterly recollection series. So these pins are really large and hefty, and I think it had a retail of $25, so not cheap to start off with. But these pins are super detailed, and it's like you get a 2-for-1 with the pins. So on this side here, you have a present day Cusco looking pretty cool, but you can then slide this. You can see it says Emperor's New Groove etched in the back. Flip this around, and then it's actually Cusco as a baby. It even has a little Cusco-topia in the background. So this is a really neat pin series. And you can see why it's Recollections, where it has a kind of old version on them there, and it has the younger version. The only thing is I never really know how to display this on my board. I can never really decide between Cusco as a little baby or Cusco from the present. And also the Emperor's New Groove writing on the background is pretty cool. So this pin is really neat, but it's a little difficult to display because I want to display all of it, but I can't show it all at once. This one, like quite a few of the others, is a limited edition of 3,000. This Yzma pin here is part of the Villains perfume set that's being released this year. This one is called Pampered Chemistry. This is pretty neat because there's quite a few different elements on this. This whole upper portion is kind of like the 3D rubber. You got a little crystal there, and then on the side is all stained glass. And it's neat that all this part is shaped like Yzma's collar is. And oh wow, who would have guessed, another LE3000. And this back is also a good example of what most pins with stained glass elements look like. As you can see, there's borders around it, and even up there a little bit too, because they have to be able to get the stained glass in there, I think, without having any interference from the Mickey heads. This pin is one that I showed in a relatively recent video, and it is the one and only fantasy pin that I currently own. This one depicts the llama potion, and I got this from Fandom Flare. There are some really cool other Emperor's New Groove fantasy pins out there, since they don't really make a whole bunch of Emperor's New Groove pins, and fantasy pin creators get pretty creative with what they do. This one was called Extract of Llama, and it is a limited edition of 50. We're now moving into some of my lower edition size Emperor's New Groove pins. This one is a Pacha Pin Trader Delight from the Disney Studio Store Hollywood. This one is definitely one of the smaller size PTDs. If you can get a sense for scale, he's pretty tiny. But there's also some pretty cool detail on this because it looks like the sprinkles on his ice cream are actually little Mickey heads. And this one is a limited edition of only 300. But I do believe that there are some fakes of this pin, so just do be wary if you're looking for this pin and who you get it from. This is another Pin Trader Delight, and it's probably just one of my favorite in general pins because it's Yzma as a kitty cat. Yzma is holding her llama potion, and she has a huge banana split sundae. There's very few pins with Yzma as a cat out there, but I feel like they're starting to put more out, which I love because Yzma is my absolute favorite villain, and she's such a perfect baddie in her cat form. And this PTD is a limited edition of 500. This is another pin that comes from the Disney Studio Store Hollywood, and this is part of the Villain Stained Glass series. Here we have Yzma again, and we also have the little Yzma kitty cat on top. It's got really nice stained glass in the back, and then this is all really nice metal around here. And the enamel on the pin itself is also really nice and shiny. This one here is a limited edition of 400. Now we're down to my two WDI or Walt Disney Imagineering pins, and my two favorite pins in this collection. This one is part of the Villain Profile series and has Yzma on it. Again, holding her potion. I love how she has her little pinky stuck out in the air. Really beautiful purple clouds at the bottom, a kind of stained glass translucent fill back there. She has all her eye detail screen printed on, and this WDI Villain series was just so awesome. Like, this is what you call a beautiful pin. This one is a limited edition of only 250. And finally, my favorite pin in the collection is Yzma as a cat from the Gold Frame Cat Collection that was released at this year's D23 Expo in the Mickey's of Glendale pop-up shop. So the Mickey's of Glendale pop-up shop is the only opportunity where regular people can just go and buy Walt Disney Imagineering pins. And they had a whole set of Disney kitty cats in these beautiful gold frames, and they had Yzma. So these pins are so nice because it's just fully coated in really nice, probably epoxy, which just makes it so shiny. Yzma looks so beautiful there. You have your little kitty paw prints there, balls of yarn. This one is just perfection. This one is a limited edition of 300. And so I just love having these two pins together, Yzma in her regular form and Yzma in her kitty form. And so that is all of my Emperor's New Groove pins. I'm excited to see what other Emperor's New Groove pins they come out with. I know that at a recent studio store event in Hollywood, they had a preview of pins that were coming out, and it looked like they have another Yzma kitty cat pin eventually. So hopefully I'll be able to figure out a way how to get that one. But otherwise, the pin that I really hope to be able to find one day is the WDI Emperor's New Groove 15th anniversary pin. That looks like an absolutely beautiful pin. But there's also tons of great older Emperor's New Groove pins out there, and it'll be a fun hunt to try and find some more of them. But thanks for watching! I hope you enjoyed this video, and please do consider subscribing if you'd like to see more Disney and pin related content. And I hope you have a Zip-a-Dee-Doo Disney day!